Now, a full hour of news from Washington and around the world on BBC World News America.
Now then, does the internet give us the right to be forgotten? Or is everything that happens in cyberspace forever visible? And is that the price we have to pay for being on the web? The European Union thinks not. It's putting pressure on companies like Facebook and Google to give us users more control over our personal data. It wants us to be able to modify and delete any information which has been collected. The advertisers don't like it, and the companies are caught in the middle. So who gets to win? For answers, we can turn to Michael Fertik in San Francisco, the founder of Reputation Defender. Great to have you on the program, Michael.
Thank you for having me.
So, I mean, it is an extraordinary phenomenon that every time you put something on the web, it is there forever and ever. Is it possible to reverse that process, do you think?
It is possible. Let me help set up this issue to show your listeners exactly how important this is. I was just last week in Jerusalem at the International Conference for Data Privacy Regulators, which is the main conference on the topic of data protection, where the data privacy commissioners from all over the world attend. And it was a huge display of fireworks between the representatives from European countries and America, because European regulators are convinced that American regulation simply does not protect privacy for consumers in the U.S. or in Europe. The debate can be summed up with one sentence, which is the claim that there is no such thing as a neutral default setting. From the Europeans' point of view, companies like Google and companies like Facebook are opting us in without our explicit permission in advance to huge data collection about us. So all of us have very, very, very deep and thick personal data dossiers that are being collected about us without our permission. Europe thinks of privacy as a human right. America traditionally has thought of privacy in our legal architecture as a consumer protection matter, which is much lower on the standard of data protection. So Europeans are very uncomfortable with the amount of protection that America gives. Now, America has been operating under a provision called the EU Safe Harbor Act for the last roughly 10 years, which is actually an exemption to the cross-border data sharing provisions of the very rigorous regime that Europe put in place about 10 years ago. And we have been operating under this exemption because our economic cloud is so big. But European regulators are now getting very uncomfortable with it.
Okay, but Michael, I mean, we're all living in one cyber world here. Is it possible that Europe could impose one solution and the Americans stick with another one?
You're asking exactly the right question. The answer is increasingly no. And even American companies are now looking for what's called harmonization between the European and American regimes, because American companies are losing out. They're feeling themselves to be competitively disadvantaged by the fact that they're having to navigate two huge sets of rules on either side of the Atlantic. And of course, the Europeans are much more advanced in terms of their rigor in terms of protection for data privacy. Even local countries inside Europe and even inside Germany, specific states within Germany are reaching outside of Germany, outside of Europe, and into America and into the offices of American companies to try to bring their privacy standards up for the European levels that they like to see in Europe.
But is the main obstacle to us achieving the golden mean, which is that we can surf the web at our liberty and we can have some sort of control over our personal identity, is the main obstacle to that the fact that advertisers want to make money and companies want to make money?
So I want to this is a great question. The first 10 years of the Internet, the 10 years that have just passed, probably 90% of the $1 trillion of wealth that's been created outside of the hardware companies has been through media businesses. You're exactly right. There's a lot of pressure from media businesses to keep their data flows going because they're making a lot of money. Now, I predict that the next 10 years, the next $1 trillion in wealth that will be created will actually not be from media companies. My company, Reputation Defender, is a pay-for-play product company. We protect reputation. We actually protect consumer privacy, both in the U.S. and in Europe, and we're finding technical solutions to fill in these gaps around the regulatory holes, both in the U.S. and in Europe, so consumers can get their privacy back.
Okay, I'm going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid. Michael Fertik, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Now let's go to Burma, where